these people who are 45 now in 2025, in 2045, they're going to be 65. What are you going to look like? What are you going to feel like? Who are you going to be? Where are you going to be? Are you even going to be here? The decisions that you make now will dictate where you will be in 2045. 20 years is going to hit us so fast. It's going to be here in a blink. So what are you going to do? The choice is yours. What's happening?
How are you?
Very good. Just got back from vacation and I'm refreshed and ready to rock and roll and go. Thinking about some things. I read an article. I know it's 2025, but actually 2045 is right around the corner.
Absolutely. Before we get to blink, it's going to be here.
Yeah, because I remember 2000 just seems like it was just yesterday that we were in 2000 and now we're in 2025. I can't believe it. 2045 is going to be here, like you said, before we know it. We need to be thinking about it. I know people are thinking, gosh, they're crazy. What are they talking about? 2045. But there was an article in Women's Health magazine recently that talked about what healthcare and what health and wellness overall is going to look like in the next 20 years. And I thought that would be something really cool to talk about, where we're going over the next 20 years.
Absolutely. So, one of the things that I noticed, it had 6 bullet points to it. And the first one was personalized care. So, it was talking about, basically doing more with your blood work. Basically, medication for mental health based on your biology, history, and your characteristics. And I think that's really great that things are becoming a little bit more personalized. Being able to, basically take your blood and use that to help you in other instances, I believe is really a cool thing when you're thinking about science and, even technology and moving forward. That can be a way to kind of help you heal a little bit. So I really love that everything is becoming more personalized.
Yeah, because we're not the same. We're different. Yeah, you and I are both African American women in our 50s, but we're not the same. We're not the same biologically. And so, why should our health care, why should our skin care, why should anything just be the same? The one size fits all. I like the individualized, personalized approach to everything, even like vitamins. It would be great to just
Definitely.
get a vitamin pack that's specific to me as opposed to someone else. The one a day, the multivitamin. But suppose I need something that's a little bit more in the vitamin D realm versus the B6. I don't know. So I like the idea of moving towards the personalized, individualized care in everything.
Absolutely. And you were just saying about the vitamin packs. We know that people of color are usually more vitamin D deficient because we have more melanin. And that's kind of blocking, those UV rays from the sun that we sort of need. Even though, of course, we want to protect our skin when we go out with sunscreen, sometimes you need that vitamin D from the sun just to be able to heal. So if our melanin is kind of blocking that, we know that usually we're being prescribed vitamin D by doctors now. I know my mom is. And that seems to be the way to go, either taking like a larger dosage of vitamin D or having it prescribed by your doctor. So I think that's a good thing when you look at personalizing whether it's supplements or again, like the mental health medication, being able to look at your biology and know what you actually need to maybe balance yourself out is a good thing. Because again, there's no shame in that anymore. Mental health is not something to keep quiet. If you're struggling or you feel certain ways, that needs to be told to someone. You need to be able to talk it out and get the help that you need. So I do love that could end up growing to be a lot more personalized to what it is that you need.
Yeah, definitely love the whole mental health thing. And one of the things that the article talks about specifically is skin care. And it talks about how the blood platelets used instead of synthetic fillers. Now, I know you and I have talked a bit about getting somebody on our show who can really talk about injectables. And you
Yes.
were talking about shame, and there's no shame in having to get like we said, a nip, a tuck, a poke, a fill, or something as you reach a certain age. Well, I read about these platelet driven injectable fillers, that there's this thing called Easy Gel, and it's something to look into. And what they do is they take your blood and they spin it. They take your blood, they into a vial and they spin it. And so once they spin it, like the platelets separate from the actual blood, and then they take those platelets and then they inject them into your face or wherever you would be getting the injectables in your face, as opposed to the synthetic filler. And it just seems to take better, set better, last longer, because it's your own blood, it's your own DNA being injected. So I'd be really curious to learn more about that as we explore talking to the experts about fillers and the platelet fillers versus the synthetic fillers.
Well, that makes sense because they have what's called the vampire facial too, where they're using, your own blood on top of your face as your facial and basically trying to plump the skin again. So that really does make a lot of sense. And when we think about personalized care, one of the things that I have seen popping up everywhere, and it's my thing for 2025. I'm going to try it. I want to go to one of these IV drip spas. And what I love is that they have, a whole menu where you can basically choose however, like whatever you feel like you need, whether it's better immunity or you're wanting to do something with aging better, your hair, skin, and nails. They just have this huge menu that you can choose from and have the IV drip with those vitamins and supplements in it. So I think that's kind of neat when you think about, again, personalizing your care. But when you get a membership to one of those places, one month you may be going through something where you're catching a lot of colds. So you want the immunity. And then maybe you're working out and you're changing your routine and you want something that's going to help you with your building muscle and recovery. They have all of that as well as your different shots. So if you need extra energy and you want that vitamin B12, or they have like the lipo type, the liquid lipo now, those injections, you can get all of that. So I'm noticing a lot of these spas, they're popping up. The great thing is that they have nurses that are there. So it's nurses and doctors. It's not just someone random doing your injections or your IV, like starting that for you. It's an actual clinical person. So I do like that. But I think that as you're looking around, you're starting to see those places pop up a little bit more where it's taking wellness to a different level. It's not so much of how much medication can I prescribe. It's more of let's try, this. Let's try these supplements and see how you feel. So I think that's pretty cool that you're starting to see a lot of those places and then they're adding more services. We have the cryo. If you're someone who works out a lot and you want to go into that like little freezing capsule and get cold real quick, they have that. They have the infrared lights. So there's so much that you can do that just kind of pulls toxins out of the body and helps you recover naturally. I think that's pretty neat.
I agree. No, I really like that idea. I might have to get that infusion as well, because
Yes,
I
I
just think it's
definitely
just
want
so
to
much
try
more.
that.
Yeah, it just seems like it's a lot more effective than just taking a pill or a tablet, but just to have it injected. So definitely, I love that idea because, just like we talked about earlier, somebody might need more vitamin D and somebody else might need or might have an aversion to be, you know,
Yes.
So if it's personalized, that makes it even better. So
And
I love that idea.
one of the great things about those type of spas, having your registered nurses and your doctors there, it kind of leads us into the number 2 bullet point with GLP-1s, and that they're here to stay. And you notice that some of those spas also have that where you can go in and get a whole assessment done with a provider there, whether it's telehealth or it's going into their clinics and spas and being able to talk through your goals with someone and them being able to prescribe and help you with your GLP.
Yeah, and I have mixed opinions on that. You know how I am with the GLP-1. I am on a GLP-1. Everyone who has watched the show knows that I'm on tirzepatide, proudly on tirzepatide. But I noticed that those who are going to get their medication from med spas are the ones who are landing themselves in the emergency room. And they're the ones who are kind of like giving it a bad rep. And I don't mean to like blast the med spas and not trying to get sued by any of the med spas. But I just think with the GLP-1s, it is so important to meet with an actual doctor. And so while I do believe in take going the telehealth route, I've gone the telehealth route. I meet with a board certified doctor who is board certified in internal medicine and obesity medicine. Whereas those who are at these med spas are just people like you and me who are just injecting folks. So it's kind of tricky with the GLP-1. But as the article states, GLP-1s are here to stay. So whether you like them or not, how you feel about them doesn't matter. They're not going anywhere. As a matter of fact, more of them are popping up. And so Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, Amgen, some of the other companies, they're all coming with a vengeance with these GLP-1s. So get ready.
Well, hopefully they'll make them where, everything that I notice with whether it's medication for diabetes or like weight loss, you always lose your butt. So stop it. Like, we want to lose our stomachs. We don't want to lose our butts. I don't know anyone who's like, yeah, I don't want a butt, you
Yeah,
know? But
exactly.
everybody doesn't want a stomach, so help us lose weight on our bellies and, like, our back fat. Stop making us lose the weight on our butts.
And that's where the lifestyle change comes in. And we've talked about this. You can't just let a GLP-1 do all of the work. You've got to do the work in conjunction with the GLP-1. You take the GLP-1 and you have to hit the gym or the floor doing floor exercises in some form or fashion. So if you don't want to lose your butt, guess what? You need to get on the floor and you need to do some butt lifts or something to continue to maintain your butt. So you need to do the work along with it. But if you just sit around and let that GLP-1 do all the work for you, you're not going to be happy. You're just not. So I agree with you. The Ozempic butt, not cute, but it doesn't have to be that
Believe
way.
me, it's not just the weight loss, drugs. It's anybody who's on, like, any type of diabetic medication will tell you the same thing. It's like when they go and you're walking and you're doing your workouts and you're taking that medication, and then it's like the first thing that you lose is your butt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever butt you had, it's going away.
So
And
work.
it's just like, help us lose our stomachs, please.
Yeah. And some of the young people are you losing their bellies. I know for me, like I'm going through menopause, so I'm not losing my belly because my menopause belly is like sticking with me. So it's one of those things where it's it's a catch 22 for those of us who are in our midlife where the GLP-1, yeah, you might lose a little bit of butt, you might lose a little bit of face. That belly, man, I tell you, it just won't budge. So I fully understand. I mean, it goes down. Like I don't have a big belly, but it's still there more than I want it to be. So,
Well, look, you know what? That circles back to number one, the personalized care. Come on, doctors, and let's get some personalized care for menopause.
yes,
Please.
yes, and that's what's helping me is also being on the HRT because I'm on a natural hormone replacement therapy as well. So that has helped, and a lot of women who are in midlife, who are in their late 40s, 50s, and even 60s, who are on the GLP-1s, who are also incorporating the HRT, are doing amazing. Those are the ones who are losing the most weight, also building the muscle and a little bit of belly fat. So yeah, that's personalized. That's not just GLP-1 by itself or HRT by itself. It's the personalized putting the two together. So that's a great thing. But yeah, the article says by 2030, nearly 1 in 10 people are expected to be on a GLP-1. Those of you who want to lose weight, you may be saying, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to give it some time. Give it some time. You just might be part of this team. We'll see.
I feel like we're already there with the GLP-1, the 1 out of 10, because I already know several people who are either on it or are starting it, and I just think it's something now we're there.
Yeah, we're there. And I know there
Yeah.
are a lot of people who say, oh, I don't know, is it safe? I don't trust. The GLP-1 came out, the first one was introduced in 2005. So we've got 20 years of history with this. 20 years. And so and we're not seeing the negatives other than the people who, like I said, may be overdosing because they're getting it from a med spa where there's no doctor kind of leading the way. So, but as far as those who are taking them, either through the brand medication or even the compounded, doing it the right way, the compounded version, just overall health improving and improving and improving. And it just keeps getting approved for more and more conditions like sleep apnea. I just know that eventually it's going to be approved for cardiac conditions. I just think the list is going to go on as these drugs are going to be approved for other things beyond diabetes and weight management. We'll see. I believe it. I think this is going to be the new vitamin. I just do. So we'll see. But we just also need to pay attention to all the policies and the politics. I know we don't like to talk about politics, but the GLP-1s have come up in politics lately, but we do need to pay attention to the politics and the policies of our government that will shape a lot of things moving forward. So that's one of the things that's mentioned number 3 in the article. We got to pay attention, KJ, to the policies.
Yes, and not just with the GLP-1s, but when we think of women's health, of course, your number one is going to be having children. And, again, we're not known on this podcast for politics, and we're not telling anyone how to think or feel. It just, for me, my opinion is I would love to see, it go back to a couple, whether it's yourself alone or with your spouse, being able to sit with your physician and have that conversation of whatever's best for you, because we don't know what's going on with everyone's, health and wellness. So I do think that when you think of someone being a doctor and going and getting that education and having to study and intern and do all of these things, you know, let's trust that we're going to have a good conversation with them and that they're going to look out for our best interests. I would not want to know that someone went to a doctor and was turned away and told, well, sorry, can't help you, go home, try to take maybe some Tylenol or ibuprofen. That's not the way to do it. So I would love to see where women have that opportunity to be able to work with their doctor, whatever the health condition may be, and know that they're going to be taken care of. No one should be left to go home and possibly die. I don't think that that's what any, government official wants. So let's not, make people feel that way.
Yeah, and when you talk about going home, this isn't really an abortion discussion. This is really, in most cases, it's a miscarriage discussion.
Yes.
The article says that one 2024 investigation suggests that pregnant women in states that have abortion bans are at a higher risk of dying from preventable causes. And preventable meaning miscarriage that could be handled, treated, taken care of in a responsible way. So here's my thinking. And again, I, I don't want to have a political discussion because how people think, their views, I have mine, you have yours, everyone else has theirs. My problem, my concern is that this discussion, especially with men, seems to focus a lot on abortion. And that's not where it starts and stops. It's almost like let's not talk about that because the thinking is that they're preventing women who got pregnant and just decided, oh, I don't want it, so I'm going to go have an abortion. Okay, if you're pro-life and you feel that way, great. That's wonderful. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about, couples, married couples who are young, who are trying to get pregnant and have children. And they get pregnant and they want to have a child. Suddenly something goes wrong. And that woman is miscarrying. She's miscarrying. And we're talking maybe a couple who is pro-life. They're pro-life. They don't believe in abortion. They're pro-life, but they want to have a child. They live in the state of Texas or they live in the state of Florida or they live in a state that has abortion bans, which they support, which they're allowed to support. But something goes wrong. What happens next when they're in a hospital and the wife is bleeding out and she's miscarrying and she's in a hospital and suddenly she's told, sorry, can't help you, go home. What happens then? We understand, yeah, anti abortion, pro life. What happens then with the wife who's bleeding out and suddenly she needs medical care? And everyone in the hospital is looking at her like, sorry, can't help you. That's what we're talking about.
That's tough because it's not like she wants to lose her life. So, it's that's why I'm really all for being able to have that conversation with your doctor and your doctor being able to help you and not feeling like, well, I can't. I'm gonna go to jail.
Right.
Be like that because they took an oath basically to, make sure that they are taking care of whoever's coming in that hospital. But
Yeah.
now are being turned away. Well, excuse me, women are being turned away and told to go home and just kind of, you know, basically let things happen naturally. Well, not everything happens naturally. It's not just cut and dry.
Yeah. Because one of those things that could happen naturally is death.
Yes.
And you don't think about it until you're in that situation. And so a lot of men don't think about it until they're in that situation with their wife, girlfriend, loved one who's dying in their bed at home. Even those of us who are our age, we're you and I are beyond the childbearing age, and it's like, "Oh, not really my problem." Yeah, but there may be somebody that you know or love who could be in that situation. And then what? And we don't want that. We don't want somebody dying at home in their bed or bleeding out in the parking lot of a hospital. Who thinks that's okay
Right.
for themselves or their loved ones? And I think a lot of men, their eyes are opening to that in the states of Texas, Florida, and some others that have strict abortion bans. This is not about abortion. This is about health care for the women that we love.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say too, anyone who is looking at moving, that's something that you want to make a part of your homework. We always look at, oh, how much is it going to cost to live? And can I, purchase a home there? And, is my salary going to take care of things? But you also need to do your homework in what state you choose to live in.
Definitely. Absolutely.
What are the laws? Just like you would go to another country and have your vacation, and you have to learn the do's and don'ts. You don't want to raise your voice in a certain country because then they can throw you in jail for that. She yelled, she raised her voice. We don't allow that. If you knew that, you wouldn't have done it. So it's kind of the same when we're moving. You really need to make sure that that's a place that you want to be. Make sure that you're happy with whatever's going on in that state and that you can deal with it.
Yeah. Do your views align with what's going on in that state?
Yes.
It's tough, but sadly, it isn't until it impacts you personally that you realize, oh my gosh, I'm in the wrong place.
Yeah.
And that's kind of sad. That's kind of sad. So we do need to pay attention to politics and policies because they will and they can shape your situation. Situation may not be here right now, but that situation could pop up today, tomorrow, or in someone that you love's life, someone that you care about in their life. We don't know what tomorrow's going to hold. And what's fine today may not be fine tomorrow. Suddenly you may find yourself in a situation that you're like, oh my gosh, like I didn't think that this had anything to do with me. Well, why not? Well, now it does.
So, it makes me think about something that we almost preach every podcast that we do. And that is women, we need to make sure that our health is good, that we are taking care of ourselves. And we're always talking about get moving, working out, exercise, doing something. And that kind of leads us to the fourth bullet point. One of the things in the article that it was talking about was lifting heavy and often. So lifting heavier weights, going with more of those, the kettlebell style, or doing, 10 pounds or more, lifting that type of weight in order to keep yourself healthy. I kind of have mixed feelings about it. I usually have not gone any more than about 8 pounds for me personally. And I love doing 3 pounds and just doing higher reps with those 3 pounds. But I know that the heavier you go, you can actually do less reps because it's a lot harder to push that heavier weight. But, that is what the article is saying is just lifting heavier and more often.
Yeah, we have to live, ladies. Like we have to. The days of putting on your little cute outfit and being in the little class with the doing the Richard Simmons, remember him?
Jazzercise.
Yeah, doing all of and that's great and wonderful and that's great for your cardio and so forth, but we're just at a point now, especially those who are in midlife, you have to build that muscle. You have to work on those joints. You need strength and more strength and more strength. And the only way to do that is to lift heavy and lift often. And by often, it doesn't mean that you do 25 reps. It means like do it 3 days a week minimum. You need to. And we've talked about this that I know people are tired of me talking about the Real Housewives. It's like you know everything that's going on all the reality shows, but while you're sitting there, can you lift like a dumbbell, a kettlebell, or do something? Because you're always saying you don't have time, but you've got the time. You really do, because you know everything that's going on Netflix. And so lift. You don't have to go to the gym, but you can lift. I don't care if it's a jug of water, but lift heavy. Lift your child. If you have a baby, lift, but you have to lift heavy and often because we have to have that muscle strength, period. Like we have to. We have to. And our bone density is so important as we get to a certain age. Your bone density has to remain strong. You can do that by lifting, moving. Otherwise, I heard I think it was one of our guests who was saying that like your bones could turn to chalk. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy."
Well, do you remember when we did our listeners hopefully remember this when we did our podcast on the different types of workouts that are out there for, women that are our age. And the one thing that I noticed, if I follow Tracy Anderson, the Tracy Anderson method on Instagram, and she always has weights in her hand, or either like now she has what she calls the heart stone, where she's holding stones in her hand and moving, so you have that weight in your hands. She's always got ankle weights on. So any type of leg lifts and things that she's doing, there's always that extra weight on the legs or on the hands. Resistance training. Remember we talked about P-Volve with Jennifer Aniston, which what's really cool is they actually are getting one here in the Houston Galleria area.
Cool.
Yes, so they're having a studio. I don't know how many studios they have, but I was really excited to see that. And again, they're using resistance training with that. Resistance bands are hard. Everybody looks at them, oh, that's just easy. It looks like a rubber band. No, they all have different strengths to them. So it is very difficult to use those. And it's a skill technique. I mean, they're not simple, but you're going to feel those workouts. You may think, oh, this is wonderful. This is so nice and easy and dainty. No, you wake up the next day and it's like a Mack truck hit you
Right.
and you're so, I mean, you don't just think of, I have to go to the gym and I have to deadlift 75 pounds. It's not like that. There's so many different, types of workouts now that you can do and still get like that maximum burn to it.
Yeah. And you're not going to bulk up and look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. If that's the fear that you don't want to look like the big, dude, that's not going to happen. Do you know how hard it is for women to like get that Mr. Olympia look? It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
So like that's not going to happen. You're just
That
going
has
to
a
build
lot to do with
definition.
supplements too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's
Right. When I hear people talk about it, but I don't want to look like, a dude with all these, it's not going to happen. You're not designed that way. That's hard. That's really hard to get there. And people who even work at it, some of them don't achieve that. So, uh-uh, no. But
well,
yeah,
my advice would be to look at one of your favorite celebrities. Someone that comes to mind who has the most envious arms is Angela Bassett. We all know that like years ago, I don't think it's like 30 years now when she did What's Love Got to Do with It, where she played Tina Turner and she had to get in shape for, Miss Tina's shape. Of course, we knew her for her physique,
yeah,
as well as her voice. So Angela had to do that work and she still has those arms. Viola Davis, she's still got her woman king physique. Just take a look at some of your favorite celebrities and look at their muscle tone and the cuts in their body. And those women that I just named, along with, Jennifer Aniston, they're not bulky, but they're very sculpted. When you look at them, you can see the definition. And there's nothing wrong with your arms having really good muscle tone and definition. That's usually what you want. But
yeah.
don't think of it as, you're just going to end up looking like something that you don't want to look like. You end up looking like a better, leaner version of yourself, but you don't have to do things that are going to make you look like you're going to go on a stage and start doing poses. It's just more about trying to get that sculpted look and also grow that muscle and keep that muscle.
Yeah, I
You
laugh
want to
when
write
I
that
see
down?
that. What the people talking about the look on the stage.
Yes.
Very hard. Right. And it's hard. That's hard.
Yes.
Like you said, and it takes I wonder if some people are injecting some hormones or steroids or something. I don't know. I don't know. That's hard.
Yeah, that doesn't happen overnight. It's
Mm-mm.
just like somebody, getting ready for a movie role to be Superman or some action hero, and you
Right.
see them all of a sudden with these, arms that are, like, humongous. That didn't happen overnight. Yeah.
No, that was a lot. And beyond the way that it looks, it's how it feels. So we're doing
Yes.
it for the health aspect of it. We're building the muscle for our health. You lose your muscle, you lose your health. Oh my gosh. We've all seen the little old lady who can't get out of the chair, talked about this, and we don't want to be that person. We want to be the person who can just stand up, get moving, get going well into our 80s. And the only way you're going to do that is if you put in the work now to build that muscle.
Mm,
Period.
yeah. And just know that the vanity, it's gonna be nice.
Yes.
You may want to go and rock a bikini at the beach,
Right.
so
Right.
why not?
Yeah, and you'll look so much better with that muscle definition than the flab. So lift those weights. The article says trading out our little pink girl dumbbells for the heavy as heck kettlebells. So
Well,
again,
hey, I still
you don't
want
have to
my pink though.
deadlift, like you said, 175 pounds. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's time to like get we're girly ladies, but we're giving you permission at this point to not be girly in this
Yeah.
area.
I want my kettlebell to be pink though.
Okay.
I still want the pink.
Okay, it can be pink, but it's got to be heavy.
Yes.
So heavy pink, not the little 1 pound, 2 pound little dumbbell or kettlebell. It's got to be heavy. So
Yeah,
otherwise it's just
definitely.
not gonna work. It's just not gonna work. So we got to get moving. We got to get moving. We can't sit back. We've gotta do some things.
And you know what? That kind of brings us to number 5 because we always use our voices on here to educate and try to give some type of self-improvement to our viewers and our listeners. So it brings us to using our voice. That is number 5, using our voice for change. So, we're learning to speak up and to get more comfortable with saying what we need and asking for what we need.
Yeah, because as women, sometimes we don't ask for what we need. We hope that people will just kind of come along and help us or do for us. And that doesn't work. Because see, men will speak up. Men will say exactly how they feel and what they want. And women sometimes are like, because I don't want to appear to be the B word or too aggressive or no, forget all that.
Yeah.
Forget all that. We're done with that. Use your voice for change. Use your voice unapologetically. Use your voice for change.
And you can use your voice in a way that you don't come across like that. Because I do think that women always feel like, oh, I just don't want to ruffle any feathers. I don't want to be a bother. And you put yourself last, and you can't do that. So don't buy into that whole thing of, oh, well, who does she think she is? And oh, she thinks she's special. You have to ask for what you need. And I think that that comes easier as we age because my 20-year-old self or even 30-year-old self wouldn't ask for what I need. I would just, oh, well, it is what it is. But you can't do that. Now, I feel like now that when you get into your 50s, that's that new sense of self where you just don't give a bleep, bleep, bleep what other people think, you know?
Yeah.
And that's something that I love about this age where I don't care. Hey, this is what I'm going through. This is what's happening. Hey, my mental health is not good today. I'm really not feeling my best. I'm going through some anxiety. Like now you can say it. And if you don't understand it, you know what? Leave me alone.
Right.
And that's me saying it nicely because I could think of, other ways to tell you to get away from me. But I do think that it's important to take care of yourself. And if you're not getting what you need, continue to look around until you get the person that's going to help you. I'm really happy with my providers right now because they listen to me. And it took a while. I had to basically shop around for doctors and providers that were going to listen to me and know what I'm going through and help me. And it took a minute, but it's going to happen for you. I would say don't give up,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to your health. Don't give up. You need to shop around and find who is going to listen to you, who is going to help you, who's going to find what works for you.
Yeah, because if you sit and wait for somebody else to just do for you, it may not be done. And I'll give you an example. I was telling you earlier that I'm on a hormone replacement therapy. For months, I had spoken to my doctor about how I was feeling, the hot flashes, the night sweats, how I was feeling. Please check my hormones. And I was getting nowhere, like nowhere, nowhere, because our medical providers are not trained in women's health when it comes to menopause and hormone replacement. They're just not. And they'll tell you that even in medical school or PA school or wherever they went to school, the information that they receive on that is just so minimal. So they don't really know how to treat people. I get that. So I had to advocate for myself. So again, I had to go to a telehealth company and say, you're offering this product to help with the hot flashes, to help with the night sweats. I really want to try your product. But I had to advocate for myself. I had to speak up. I didn't want to continue to suffer. I didn't. So we need to do more of that. Don't suffer. Speak up. Advocate for yourself. Go independent if you have to, because sometimes your doctor will help you, sometimes your doctor won't. Sometimes your spouse will help you, sometimes your spouse may not understand. So
Yeah, they don't know what to do.
they don't know what to do. So you need to figure it out, and you need to do for yourself. I was having a discussion, a really great discussion with one of my colleagues today, Sophia, and we were talking about women in our 50s who are seeking independence. And independence, not necessarily meaning that you want to separate yourself from your spouse or your friends or anything like that, but just being a person who is really looking out for themselves and taking care of themselves and putting themselves first. And that is whether it's with your health, whether it's with your finances, whether it's with anything. And I think that that's something that a lot of women our age are now seeking: independence and being able to make decisions for ourselves unapologetically and being the voice for change for ourselves.
That's a good point. One thing I will say about my husband, I've always been like that in the marriage. Like we're together, but I've always kind of had like my independence and just that little bit of, I don't want to call it separate, but that's sometimes what it feels like. It's just still kind of being my own individual, but also still being his wife. And one of the things I love, I'm a little old school. I love taking care of my husband, cooking, and I even still, make his plate. I love doing that.
Oh, that's so
But
nice.
it's not going to kill him if he has to do it, himself. But it's just like that's something that I love doing. But again, when it comes to finances or different things that I want to do, he's never that person. No, don't do that. He has always let me be my individual self. So I love that, but I love that tie that we have of being husband and wife. It's nice to me, like to be able to take care of him and look after him, but just knowing that I still have myself and I never have to feel like I'm just Mrs. Brewer. Like that sounds weird to me. I still laugh when I people say Mrs. Brewer. I'm like, huh? What?
Yeah,
It's
you're
not Karen. You know?
right. You're still an individual in the marriage.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
important, and sadly, there are a lot of women who don't feel that way. They still
No.
feel lost and stuck and having to get permission just to go get your nails done,
Yeah.
or why that's tough. Yeah, because like, your husband saying, "Why are you spending money on blah blah blah?" Because I get up and go to work and earn it every day. But and I'm not making light. There's some people who just can't do it. So we're hoping that we can all be a voice for change, not just with what's happening in society, but for ourselves. Be a voice for change.
I feel like too, whenever I do something for myself, I'm always like making sure that I'm doing it for him too. Because again, it goes back to that caring, that's my husband.
Yeah.
That's like my ace. That's my homie. That's my number one. So if I'm getting skincare and taking care of myself, you bet he's getting skincare too. I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, you're gonna use this eye cream, cleanser, and some moisturizer and put some sunscreen. Like I'm always like that. And he doesn't argue it because he knows that I'm taking care of him and has his best interests at heart. But yeah, I love that we can be individuals, but still come together and
As partners.
yes, be the
Right.
brewers.
Yeah, walking side by side together, but individually. It's such a cool thing. So, but looking at number 6, social connection will be key. So, for those who are struggling in what we just talked about, social connection may be that thing that may make the difference. So, reach out to somebody else, reach out to your friends. If you don't have that relationship, like we just described, where you're in partnership, then reach out to other people, maybe family, maybe friends, maybe neighbors, maybe people on social media. I know that's kind of a really, scary area, but you need to connect socially with others. That's so important.
Absolutely. When I think of Instagram and just us having the podcast, I've been able to go out and find people that their background isn't something that I'm interested in, and I would love for us to talk about. So, I always make the running joke as I'm introducing guests that I slid into this person's DM, and my husband and I, we laugh at it because, like, I slide into DMs not to hit on somebody and, try to get with them. It's more of, I want to talk to you and get to know you and your expertise. So I'm sliding into the DMs for the right reasons. And, sometimes you can connect with people like that. You just have to present yourself in that way of not being somebody who's creepy. But I always let people know, hey, we have this podcast and would really love to talk to you and kind of reach out to them. But I do feel like if you're someone who's looking for connection and there's certain things that you're interested in, you can always reach out to someone and through DM and say, I'm new to social media, or I noticed that you love to crochet and I'm looking at your work and, I just wanted to follow you. And do you have, any other connections or groups or things that you're involved in that maybe I can get involved with too, because that's a passion of mine. So I think that if you use social media that way, the correct way, and not in a creepy stalkerish way, that could be an avenue for you too to be able to find things that are in your area. I mean, look at how many guests now that we've spoken to that are really kind of within our region of, Texas, Louisiana, just that kind of area where it's not that far for us to go over to Louisiana. So I think it's kind of neat that we've learned to get to know what they do and their expertise, and now we're able to talk and kind of share that. But I think between that or Facebook groups, I'm not on TikTok, but I think between those 2, there's a lot of social connection. Or even, we talked about the P-Vols, coming here, building a studio in the Galleria area. So if that's something that you love and you've always wanted to join a Pilates club or a dance club or something, that's a great way to meet people who love to do what you do.
Yeah, I'm so thankful that you're doing that, that you're sliding into people's DMs because, yeah, we've met a lot of people that we wouldn't know otherwise. For example, I'll give you an example. Our guest, Nikki, very impressed with her. And I've been telling my son, like, you need to connect with Nikki because
Yeah.
they're in the same industry. And I'm going to make that connection for business reasons.
Yes.
But again, would not have known her had it not been for you meeting her the way that you met her,
Yeah.
and bringing her on the show. And I'm like, wow, like you're somebody who I think my son could connect with and do business with. So
Absolutely. And she's so passionate about helping people and wanting to educate. And now I'm seeing her always doing Instagram lives. And I love that because, she had so much knowledge. And it was just like, girl, you need to get out there and let people hear you and get to know you and what you do. And I love seeing it. I love that she's, a younger woman and she's got all this power and connections now at this age. She's just going to get better. And
definitely.
that's what happens for us. I mean, that social connection I feel like makes us better.
Mhm. Yeah. And I feel like we did a lot more social connecting. I don't know how it was for you growing up in Massachusetts, but I know for me growing up in Baltimore as a young person, we hung outside a lot. Like as a kid, you know, knew all the neighbors, knew all the kids in the neighborhood. I just feel like lately, and maybe it's because I'm in Texas now and it's so hot and people are not hanging out the way they used to or the way they did in Baltimore, but we had that social connection growing up. And then now that we're more internet and more, I don't know, social media driven, it's shifted. But that doesn't mean that you still shouldn't connect socially. You have to. God created us to fellowship with others.
Yes.
So we have to do it in a responsible way.
I am so glad that I grew up when I did. My grandmother, she used to just tell us, "Get outside."
Right.
We wanna sit there and watch TV, "Get outside."
Right.
And we had to get outside and get some fresh air, and then we'd start playing, whether it was basketball, football, like just some tag, red light, green light. We had to do something, but
Something.
we had to get outside, and you were outside until it was time for dinner. You hear that, "Come inside for dinner." So, I'm so happy that we grew up that way because honestly, and I hate to get so deep, but I feel bad for sometimes for this generation where it's all about social media and nothing else. It's all about getting that right selfie or, dressing a certain way or looking a certain way and not being an individual anymore, but more of I want to fit this mold because this is what's going on right now. This is what I'm seeing. This is what my favorite celebrities look like. So I have to do this. And it's no more about being unique. Do you remember the actress from Dirty Dancing? How unique she looked? Because she had like a nose that was a little bit different from
Right.
everybody
I
else.
remember.
But now you have everybody who wants, and I see this because I work in retail. So I'm in a mall, I work in retail, and I see everybody come by or come in the store. And this whole almost cartoonish way of looking is the norm, to have these lips that are super overdone, to have like a bosom that's like a double or a triple D, and then this teeny weeny waist where it looks like you have no ribs, and then this super, I call it like a bionic body with the really big hips and behind that just doesn't look right.
No, it looks a mess.
Yeah, so many look like this now instead of being an individual. When I was growing up, the biggest thing was me being darker skinned, and that was almost deemed ugly. You had to be light skinned in order to be cute. And I feel like that was kind of the extent of what I went through. It's just, oh, you're dark skinned. Dark is ugly, being lighter is cute. But now these girls, it's like if you don't have these certain proportions and this kind of body and these kind of lips and all of, like, you're almost having to make yourself over at 20, 21, and you're not even fully developed.
That's sad for me. That just really breaks my heart. And I'm so glad I'm not raising daughters because I just can't imagine dealing with that right now.
Yeah.
That just breaks my heart.
Yeah, that's the way it is. It's like people are not individuals anymore. And I always feel like I love seeing people that look unique and look different and don't look like everybody.
Yeah.
But now you almost have this cookie cutter version of what's beautiful. And everyone looks the same. That it's like interchangeable. It's just very strange to me. But yeah, my coworkers always laugh because I'm like, oh my gosh, another bionic body, and they
Bionic body.
cackle and get a laugh out of it, but I'm being so serious that it's just strange to me that everyone has a bionic body.
So I guess as we approach 2045, which is how we started this conversation,
Yes.
it's probably going to get worse. What do you think?
I
Better?
I kind
Worse?
of I do kind of think that because, at one point it was plastic surgery was for the wealthy, right? You had to really have like a good solid income, six figures or more to go and get plastic surgery because it costs like $60,000 or whatnot just to get something done. It wasn't cheap. But now you can go and get your liposuction with very little downtime. You can go and now get the injectables, like the liquid lipo. A lot of people are getting that in their stomachs. And now you can get your liquid BBL, which is your Brazilian butt lift. You can get that in a liquid form. So there's so many shortcuts now to where you don't have to go and get that traditional surgery where you're going under the knife, but now you're going to, a clinic and you're getting things injected.
What's the
So it's
liquid
much
lipo?
easier.
I might need to hear more about this.
Yes.
What is
It's
that?
much easier now to get all of the things that they want. And again, I'm seeing girls that are old enough to be like maybe my daughter. And well, I just got my boobs done. Can you help me with a bra? And I'm looking, I try not to make a face, and unfortunately, anyone who knows me, my face says everything. I can never hide it. So I hear that and I'm like, you know,
Oh
what? You just got what? And they look like a baby.
my goodness.
So yeah, and the first thought in my mind after how old are you is how did you get the where'd you get the money?
Mm.
And then it's so funny because I've had coworkers say, "Hey, Karen, you don't want to know where they got the money." And I'm like, "Okay, never mind. Let's just leave it alone."
Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of where we're going. So, even though we talked about these six bullet points from women's health, I will say that a seventh bullet point that's just my own would be that we're going in that direction of people are not individuals anymore. There's
Mm,
like this form, this mold that everyone's trying to get to. And
mm,
you see it with each ethnicity group, like ethnic group, you see it with.
mm.
So whether it's Younger white women, I see them looking towards certain people. Whether it's younger black women, I see them looking towards certain people. Younger Hispanic women, I see them looking towards certain individuals. And you can tell who like they're trying to mimic in body shape and in facial features and all. So I almost feel like that's going to be one of those things that I don't view that as a positive, but I see that as a something that we're headed towards as we go to that 2045, that you're seeing people that are not individuals anymore, that they're more of following something and trying to get to something that they deem beautiful.
That's really sad for me because I really wish that we could all just strive to be the best version of ourselves, which is really what we're here for. You and I with this podcast is we're trying to help people to grow as individuals, self-improvement, self-growth, so that we can all be the best versions of ourselves as opposed to trying to be like someone else. That we're not someone else. You can never be someone else. So why even try? I don't. But again, we don't know what it's like to be in our 20s in 2025. So it's tough, or to even be single in 2025.
Yes.
That's tough. So I
Yes.
don't want to pass judgment. I don't. But I just really wish that we could all just be the best version of ourselves.
Yeah. Would you say that there's anything going towards 2045 that you see maybe not as positive, that you see like us going in that direction?
I think the things that we touched upon are things that we need to focus on to avoid a not so positive outcome. Just growing, being conscious, socially aware, politically aware, focusing on our health, being individuals, those are all things that I just think that we need to be doing. And I think because I live a life of positivity, I'm always looking to grow. I'm always looking to be a better person. So I focus on that so much in everything that I'm reading, everything I'm watching on YouTube, anything I'm listening to when it comes to podcasts, that I'm not quite sure what's out there that's in the negative realm because I don't surround myself with that. I surround myself with completely the opposite. But I know enough of what I see on social media to see that young people may be moving in the wrong direction and they
Yeah,
need direction.
definitely. I think I just see it all the time because I work in it. So
Yes,
it's a
you do
little
see it.
different, but I do hope that we can like start educating younger, especially younger women, because that's really who I'm seeing and paying attention to. Let's get back to being individual.
Definitely. And focusing on improvement. Because one of the shows that we did that I got a lot of feedback on was the show where I was going on about what was bothering me about those who were moving into their 60s and 70s and having all these ailments and falling apart. And I just think that it's so important to get it together right now. Wherever you are, you may already be in your 60s, you may already be in your 70s, but just turn some things around. Because, like, while you're seeing people who are young who are making not so good choices, and you can already see where they're going, where you see where they're going to end up. Same thing with me in my industry. I'm seeing people who are just not taking care of themselves. They're just not. And it bothers me. These people who are 45 now in 2025, in 2045, they're going to be 65. What are you going to look like? What are you going to feel like? Who are you going to be? Where are you going to be? Are you even going to be here? The decisions that you make now will dictate where you will be in 2045. 20 years is going to hit us so fast. It's going to be here in a blink. So what are you going to do? The choice is yours. We hope you found our conversation as insightful and thought-provoking as we did. If you enjoyed the show, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. If you're listening to us on one of the podcast platforms, you can click the link that says text the show. We would love to hear from you, so please text the show. Your feedback means the world to us.
Yes, make sure that you follow us on social media. We also have our website, girlyladies.com, but I am on Instagram. I am at the KJB Effect, and then we also have at Girly Ladies.
And I, the Sonji Cosby, on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok, Facebook, all of the social media platforms. I would love to hear from you. So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and most of all, keep growing. Have a great day, everyone.
Take care.